on then with our prepared speaking contest. And then for the judges, the speaking order will be as follows. First up is Mandy Murray. Second is Permit Nube. Third, Johan Kelly. And our fourth and final speaker for the prepared section is Adrian Hind.
Who's the third speaker, please?
Johan Kelly.
Oh, she, okay.
It gives me pleasure to call up our very first speaker for the prepared speaking section. Our first speaker is Mandy Murray with her speech titled Adversity. Please welcome Mandy Murray. The only way to shift these bottles with this ball is to use an external force. The only way to shift who we are right now to who we will become is through adversity. Madam Contest Chair, fellow Toastmasters, visitors and guests, no one gets to escape the struggles, setbacks and adversities in life. What do we do when life delivers us a blow? When we lose our jobs, our income, our security, our loved ones, our health. We rage, we panic, we cry out, why me? Happiness and joy run out of us. We sway between denial and anger. We try running from it. We feel immense fear and pain. Our world becomes dark, scary, suffocating, and we hit an all-time low. We stay there, some longer than others. But as you know, all good things must come to an end. Our body's mind, soul, and emotions have a natural instinct to fight back. Slowly, with anxiety and fear, we face reality. We feel an inner stirring. We start to stabilize, use logic. We allow our minds and emotions to explore the different paths that we can take to get through this. And in these moments, we choose who we will become. I have two sisters, older than me. Natasha is 46. She lives in Cape Town. She has type 1 diabetes. Natasha does not manage her sugar, eats when she likes, injects when she likes, smokes, and does not exercise. Natasha is moody, miserable, and negative. Tanya is 45 and lives in America. She is positive, spiritual, and has a zest for life. Tanya exercises and is a health nut. 3 weeks ago, adversity struck them both. Natasha landed up in ICU with a sugar reading of 26. Your sugar is supposed to be between 4 and 6. Tanya went for her annual checkup. They found a lump in her breast. Her biopsy is at the end of the month, when she will find out her result. It's not Natasha's first time landing up in hospital. She has been abusing her sugar for 10 years. 3 weeks ago, before I left Cape Town, I went to visit her in hospital. I did not lecture her. I simply asked, what choice will you make this time? Unfortunately, Natasha has decided to allow her disease to disable her, define her, destroy her. Natasha has decided not to change her role. Perhaps the next setback will shift her, or sadly, it won't. Last week, Tanya and I spoke for a long time on the phone. She said, Mandy, why do these things happen? Why does life throw these things at us? And I said, without adversity, there is no relevance, no growth, no appreciation. Without adversity, we stagnate. Tanya does not know whether she has breast cancer or not, but Tanya has decided to reflect on her life. She has decided to remove the toxic people, thoughts, and habits that hold her hostage. Tanya is drawing on a powerful inner inspiration to change and grow, no matter the outcome. When you ask people, do you want the good news or the bad news first? They always say the bad news. So here it is. The bad news. None of us gets to escape struggles, setbacks, and adversities in this life. But the good news is, you get to choose. You get to choose who you become through your adversity. I implore you, I urge you to choose to invest in yourself. Be deliberate. Push past your boundaries and limitations. Use your hardship as a catalyst to grow and expand. Dig deep and change your limiting belief system. Create a powerful, profound mindset that you can use to carry you through these journeys. Acquire a new set of skills, a different perspective, gain a deeper understanding. So I ask you, what will you do the next time you face a setback? Will you choose to be like Natasha, who goes into victim mode, sets up camp and unpacks them? Or will you choose to be like Tanya and embrace it? Will you allow it to shift you, shape you, stretch you? Or will you allow it to disable you, define you, destroy you? No one exits adversity as the same person who entered it. Who you choose to become through your setbacks is entirely up to you.
Can we please have 1 minute of silence for the judges to complete their ballots? Time's up for the judges. Our second speaker in the prepared speaking contest, please welcome to the front Permit Nube with his speech, Dog Toileting Management. Dog Toileting Management, Permit Nube.
Not again! Aish! Madam Constance Chair, fellow Toastmasters, guests, you can name it. Some people, they say eliminating. Some people, they call it busy. Some people, they call it dog is doing its business. Dog toileting management is very important. Not only for you as the dog handler, but also for the public. Let me just give you some tips. When you get a puppy, you have to remember a few things that you have to train your dog. House training. House training is very important for a puppy. For you and your puppy to have a good life and be happy partners, you have to train your puppy. You have to be consistent. You have to be patient. Those are the key words that you have to remember. What does consistency mean? You have to do one thing over and over. I'm not going to say much about patience. I think we should all know about that. But when a puppy comes home, the first thing that you have to know about the puppy is that it doesn't know anything. She can do whatever she wants. She can pee. She can poo. She can chew your furniture. When you house train your puppy, you have to make sure that you do positive reinforcement. Everything that you do with your puppy, it should be something that is going to make a puppy to repeat the behavior. Toileting. Pick up a spot in the certain part of your garden and make sure that you take the puppy all the time to that certain space. And if you do that all the time and you make sure that the puppy is doing its business or eliminating, but what is important is to reinforce after that. You know the extent that they happen. You make mistakes, the puppy is going to make a mistake. The accident is going to happen in the house. What does people do when the puppy does that in your house? You hold the puppy, you take the nose. What have you done? What have you done? The puppy doesn't understand. Doesn't understand why you are taking her and shove it on the ground and make her sniff the pee or the poop. She doesn't understand. And by doing that, you are not instilling the bond between you and your puppy. You are not instilling the happiness between you as a partner or as someone that you have received a member in the family. But what you are doing, you are creating stress, fear, and anxiety. Your puppy is not going to be a happy dog. Let me tell you a story. I went recently to help a guide dog owner at Sasol building in Sandton. They have an issues because they didn't follow the protocols. They take the dog to what we so-called busy area. When they get there, the dog doesn't want to do busy, but what does the dog want to do? He wants to go under the shade, under the bench, and they didn't understand why. And do you know why was the problem? The weather. The weather will affect the toilet. If it is too hot, you take your puppy outside in the sun. It's not going to want to do the business. If it is raining, it's not going to want to do the business. So you have to be careful that you set up a good environment so that your dog can be habituated to what he wants to do. As you train your puppy, it's very important that you add a cue. A cue doesn't matter what the word you use. It's the word that you're going to use frequently. If you want to use busy, busy, use that. Eventually your dog will say busy, busy is going to invoke the puppy to do its business. Any word that you think you're not going to forget, you must use it. Toilet management is good. Even the municipalities, they give us the places where you can take your dog to free run. If your dog is well trained, believe me or not, those parks, they're going to be enjoyable for you and your dog. But most importantly, is the pavement, where people walk, where kids walk. You don't want your dog to mess all the way. Like what has just happened here. I just get out of the car, I step on a pool, on a dog pool. What I want to leave with you, I want you to think carefully when you bring a new member in the family. That bond, happiness is very important. And train your dog to do the toilet management in a specific space that you allocated for it. Contest chair. Thank you.
Now 1 minute of silence for the judges to just complete their ballots. Time's up. Thank you. Our third speaker in the prepared speaking contest. Please welcome to the front Johan Kelly with his speech titled How Not to Be an Ink Monitor. How Not to Be an Ink Monitor, Johan Kelly.
In 1948, my father built a beautiful home in Northcliffe for my mom and me. In those days, Northcliffe was still rather rural. We had cattle grazing around the place, still an occasional buck to be seen. It was an idyllic sort of place to grow up. And the school that I went to was Northcliffe Primary School. Madam Contest Chair. I was so clever that I didn't have to go through grade 1, grade 2 and standard 1. I started at Northcliffe Primary straight in standard 2. That was amazing. No one believes that I was so clever. Anyway, Northcliffe Primary School had only 7 classrooms and a library, from grade 1 right up to standard 5. Now, in standard 2 was when we started using dip pens. Every desk had 2 little inkwells in them. And there was 2 lucky boys were elected as ink monitors. And what they had to do twice a week was to go to a little courtyard between the girls' toilet and the boys' toilet. Now, this little courtyard, there was a gully and a tap there, and a little wooden cabinet. The gully and the tap were blue. The little wooden cabinet was blue. When the ink monitors came back, they were blue, because this little cabinet held packets of Stevens blue ink powder. And what the ink monitors had to do was take a measure of ink powder, put it in a little enamel teapot thing, it looked like a teapot, and then fill it up under the tap and come back and fill all the inkwells. Now, we had a wonderful teacher, Jewish lady, in Standard 2, Mrs. Saron. She was really a super teacher. But she was rather perturbed because Standard 3, 4 and 5 were writing with blue ink. But Standard 2 was writing with turquoise ink. Strange. Anyway, Mrs. Saron decided she would do some investigating. And she followed these ink monitors one day, and she was peeping round the corner of one of the toilets. You won't believe what these little buggers were doing. They filled their little teapots with ink powder, and instead of filling them up under the tap, they were urinating. Well, I can just imagine these little buggers, must have been killing themselves laughing until Mrs. Saron appeared on the scene. She was furious. I can imagine. Laughter just vanished, and they had to wash out their little teapot things, and they were marched off to the principal's office. When they came back, tears streaming down their faces, they were blubbing, rubbing. And what was worse, they had now been publicly humiliated. They had lost the prestige of being ink monitors. And there were 2 other boys, they were grinning all over their faces because they were the next in line to become ink monitors. Needless to say, I wasn't one of them. So we had 2 new ink monitors, and they knew that you only filled the little teapots with water, not with other fluids. Anyway, to conclude, this is how you do not become an ink monitor, by using other alternative fluids to mix your ink with. Madam,
Allow another minute of silence for the judges to complete their oaths. Time's up, thank you. please welcome up Adrian Hine with his speech titled Curiosity, a Catalyst for Creativity. Curiosity, a Catalyst for Creativity. Adrian Hine.
Curiosity killed the cat. Madam Chair, fellow Toastmasters, guests and visitors, you all know that problem, I'm pretty sure. And the implication is that if you are curious and want to create wonderful things, bad things can happen to you. But not always. You can be creative and good things can happen to you. Now I want to now talk to you about two geniuses. They were both Nobel Prize winners. One was Professor Fritz Haber, and the other one was Albert Einstein. I've got a picture of the two of them. They were great friends. You probably don't recognize the guy on the right, on your right. That's Albert Einstein before he got his hippie persona look about it. But let me tell you about these guys. Fritz Haber was a chemist, an experimental chemist. You can picture him at school. He was very curious. I'm sure some of you doing chemistry at school take little pieces of potassium and the teacher, if he allowed you, put it in big explosion. So he had his love for experimental chemistry. However, he wasn't such a good guy. He was German Jew. And he became very famous. He had very good positions in Germany. He was a professor. But he was asked during the start of the First World War to create poison gases. So now picture the scene where we have the trenches, the Western Front with the Allies, the English, the French, the Canadians, and they had the Germans on the other side there. And there was this man, very military man. You see he's got his jacket on, he's all looking very, very, very military. And he's standing in the background behind the German lines. And the chaos that went on between the Allies on one side and the Germans on the other side. Bullets, shells were going across. Craters were developing, water-filled craters, and there in those craters were bloated bodies popping up and down. And in the trenches, all the soldiers were huddled together, and beneath them were the bodies of their dead comrades, gnawed by rats and flies. A terrible, terrible scene. There was a lull in the battle, in the shooting, and all those horrible things. And there was our friend Fritz Haber, his hand up. His hand went down and he said, "God, punish the English." And there were 6,000 canisters of chlorine gas. They opened it up, and this yellow, hazy cloud lumbered forward. The Allies didn't know what was going to hit them. They didn't know. The gas went into their lungs, it destroyed the cells of the lungs, they coughed up blood. So 6,000 people died on that day. That's a bad consequence of what can happen. A year later, or 6 months later, the British, the Americans started to develop gas weapons as well, in spite of the Hague Convention that was signed by all these countries in 1907 that they would never use poison gases in warfare. So there is the bad side of things. The good side of things, Fritz Haber, he got his Nobel Prize for feeding the world. He invented a way of fixing nitrogen in our atmosphere to create ammonia, to create synthetic fertilizers. And the population today wouldn't exist at the numbers that it is if it hadn't been Fritz Haber. So there's a story. A good man, a bad man, you make your choice. Now, The other one is Albert Einstein. He's probably well known for his theory on general relativity and special relativity. And everybody knows his equation, E is equal to mc squared. And he knew that the Germans possibly were going to make a bomb, an atomic bomb. And he wrote a letter to President Roosevelt, guided by a man by the name of Professor Leo Szilard, who invented the chain reaction, of course, atomic bombs and things like that. And Albert Einstein basically said, the Germans might do it first, the Americans must do it as well. We know what the consequences were. Terrible consequences. The bombs that were dropped off in Japan killed so many people. That was an atomic bomb. And later on, people created the hydrogen bomb, which was orders of magnitude the difference between a fission process and a fusion process. But, believe it or not, Albert Einstein didn't get his Nobel Prize for that. He got it for the photoelectric effect. And we know now that there are atomic processes going on in the sun, fusion processes, which give out light. We know all about photovoltaic cells, so there are good things that can happen as well. And what I'd like to sort of end up with is a couple of quotations. One is the golden rule. Do unto others what you would have them do to you. The other one is a very favourite one of mine, because I was in a school play and I had to quote this one. This above all, this above all, this above all, do things, be true to yourself. I'm not singing this. Be true to yourself, and thou canst not be then false to any man. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian. Again, going to allow a minute of silence for the judges, please. supposed to reconvene at 10:30. How long are we going to break for? For 15 minutes?
Yeah. You're running a little bit late.
10 minutes. Is everybody okay with 10 minutes? So we're going to break then now for 10 minutes. We'll reconvene at 10:40, so 20 to 11. Thank you. Our second evaluator, Tanya Langbein. Third, Harold Robinson. And fourth, Johan Kelly.
Sheet.
Alright.
Well, no.
The evaluators, do all of you have the evaluation sheet or something you want on for evaluation? Do you have one?
Blanket.
Okay, all the contestants are sorted with that. Great. Everybody's sorted. Then I'm going to welcome up to the front our test speaker. And as we said previously, there will be a 5 to 7 minutes test speaker. Then the contestants will leave the room with the sergeant at arms. They'll have 5 minutes outside to make their notes, after which they will hand their notes into the sergeant at arms, and then they will be called into the room one at a time to do the evaluation, and you are welcome to stay in the room once your evaluation is done. Please welcome to the front our test speaker for the evaluation contest, Dave Carnes, with his speech titled The Silver Spade. The Silver Spade, Dave Carnes.
I've told the children 1,000 times, and I'm not exaggerating, do not play in the front garden during competition time. But no, they never listened to me. The judges were due. The garden was wrecked. Tufts of grass everywhere. The plants were destroyed. Where are the kids? I shouted. The kids disappeared. They knew Dad's crazed front garden look. Calm down, David. Calm down. The children will be back for dinner. My wife said. Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, it all started many years ago. There was this advert in a local newspaper. Best front garden competition. Win the Silver Spade. Presented by Baron Nicholas van Schultz. I could win that spade. It'd be easy, I said. I could just see myself in the local newspaper holding the Silver Spade. I'd become famous throughout the town. What an important chap I'd be holding that spade. But I must admit, I became a bit of a fanatic. I spent hours and hours grooming that front garden on every plant and flower by name. And I mowed the lawn every day. So what happened to the front garden? I asked the kids after dinner. World Cricket Championships, Dad. World Cricket Championships. We played against the Mitchell Avenue boys and beat them, Dad, they said. Now, I had played in the World Cricket Championships when I was a kid. The rules hadn't changed. Ball in the neighbour's yard and you're out. But this was different. I wanted to win the Silver Spade. Now listen here, you guys. Well done on beating the Mitchell Avenue boys. I'm very proud of you. But please, next time you play in the Cricket Championships world, Please play in somebody else's front garden, okay? And there, in our local newspaper, was a picture of that nasty Cedric Johnson, proud winner for the 5th time, holding the silver spade in his fat, potty little hands. 13 Clarendon Drive wins the silver spade award again. I checked that 13 Clarendon Drive front garden many times. I never saw children playing in his garden, and I heard that his mother helped him with the garden. We called him Mr. Nasty because we were quite sure that it was him that threw bottles and tins into our front garden during competition time. One year I got it right. Ha ha! Yes! The children were away in a summer camp at school. Our garden had winner written all over it. Even the weeping willow looked like it was fine. The judges drove slowly down our road. I checked through the curtains to see what was happening. They had stopped in front of our house. 4 heads turned towards our front garden. Yes, I said, yes, that's me. I'm going to win the silver spade. I could not wait. With a big local newspaper. The family gathered around. I'm going to win the silver spade. I'm going to win the silver spade. Mrs. Gladys Baxter had won the silver spade. Who the heck is Gladys Baxter? I've never heard of her. Maybe it was Gladys Baxter that threw the tins and bottles into our front garden. And what about poor Cedric? How was he going to explain to his aged mother that he had lost? Poor Cedric. I'm sorry for him. But sometime later, Saturday afternoon, I remember it well. I was watching soccer on the television. Chiefs were playing Buccaneers. A soccer match on the television. And there was a knock on the door. And there stood Mr. Green and the entire front garden committee. Could not believe my eyes. And he said, Mr. Kent, my privilege to present you with the silver spade for the best kept front garden. What a moment. And I took my photograph for the local newspaper. Proudness, power surged through me. Thank you, I said, and watched them drive away. I stood still to savor the moment. At last, the silver spade. But something was wrong. Something was missing. It was the silence. There were the shouts of laughter, screams of delight, the arguments. You're out now, not yes you are. And sometimes a real cry of pain. It was the silence. The children had all grown up and left home. They no longer played in the front garden. Tears came to my eyes. I'd wasted all my time trying to win the silver spade when I should have spent more time with my family. To all you wonderful people here this morning, be careful of the silver spades in your lives. Spend time with your loved ones. Let them remember you for the good times and not the silver spade.
and then you will be brought back into the room by the sergeant at the arms behind. Thank you.
Beetje met trappies over. No, you can. Brilliant. Thank you.
No, you make
Oh my God! And he knows all the pressure points. And he does had we grabbed yeah. 2 seconds. 2 seconds. Jerome, put that on or pass it over to Dave.
Martin, it's my love letter, don't read it. My love letter to
Okay, this is a January.
see. Oh, I'm like, what is that? You just want Jan to come touch you. Yeah, no, but we've been doing martial arts for 25 years.
I started when I was 2 old.
Nice one. So, where do you do it?
Oh, here I don't.
Really?
I need to be on the mountain where it's necessary. I've got off a move mental thing.
Tell Dave I'll put a love letter on his yeah, I used to do when I was my
also a mid-20s. But then I did competitions. And when you go to competitions, you have to be quite flexible by the weight and weight competition. So I was up against the Jews, and I had my front teeth knocked. But I got to one which got the concept versus quiet side. And then once I my mother said, but I miss it, I used to But wait, you do wow. And where is it? That's trust, eh?
I've only broken one neck so far, so Kijk, even de vaccins.
Okay, so you'll send me the details for that then? Sounds good, you know?
There's actually two. There's going to be Audrey, you know Audrey Mavella. She's an area director for this area.
She's the tall one.
No, she's a short one. She's from 4 Dimension.
Yeah.
Myself and Jacques, he's now also the master of the Jacques.
Yes, when did he join?
He didn't join
Centurion.
no, but he's running the show and he says in UK, there are now directly got 500 people attending these events.
with our evaluation contest. Please welcome our first contestant, Tabukomu, to deliver her evaluation on the test speech. Tabukomu.
Madam Contest Chair, fellow Toastmasters, visitors, guests, and I would like to acknowledge you specially, Dave.
Thank you.
Thank you for a well-delivered speech, a speech that put us off our guard with humor before you went in for the attack, with maybe the most important lesson we'll ever learn in our lives. I want to thank you for that. Dave, you had a very strong opening. While I was still arranging my notes, your voice woke me up with a very strong, I told the children 1,000 times. I could immediately relate to it as a mom. And I was ready to listen. And you said, and I'm not exaggerating, and I thought I believe you. I'm sure I've also said stuff 1,000 times. So you opened in a way that helped us to relate to you. Not all of us might have kids in here, but I'm sure we feel that pain of repeating things, especially when it's something that you're aiming for with all your heart. I loved some of the words and the terminology that you used to help us with examples from those 1,000 times. I loved the crazed look, crazed front look garden. We could see it. If you were at a point where, if you had hair like mine, I could actually see it as if it had gone through a Van der Graaf meter. Pudgy little hands. Dave, I also loved how you had highly effective use of humor. You used it throughout to slow us down, to put our guard down, to prepare us for the lesson you were going to teach us. You had powerful use of body language. When you spoke about how this was different, it was like you were throwing a little tantrum yourself. And that was very powerful for us to see, because we could suddenly feel what you were feeling, the frustration. I noticed, however, that maybe the positioning of your prop, which was over here, may not have been very helpful to you as it stunted your speech just for a few seconds while you were grasping for it. We were so engaged with you, we would have loved to not see your back. I think it would be helpful maybe if you positioned it to the side. It would have also been wonderful when you spoke about the committee. You had a wonderful committee voice, but it would have been great maybe to change your positioning so we could see them standing at the door. All in all, I would like to say well done for a speech that has taught me an incredibly important lesson. Thank you both.
Thank you, Tammy. I'm going to allow a minute of silence for the judges. in our second contestant. Please welcome our second contestant, Tanya Langbein, to deliver her evaluation. Tanya Langbein.
Madam Contest Chair, fellow Toastmasters, visitors and guests, and most importantly, Dave. Your speech title was The Silver Spade, and it immediately caught my curiosity because I was kind of excited to wonder where on earth could this be going. You opened up quite quickly with the garden competition and your excitement. You brought this amazing image in my head anyway, of you in the newspaper with the spade, standing there incredibly proud. So I had an anticipation of exactly where we were going to go. You then went on to describe the hours of effort, the tender, loving care that you put into the garden, and the hard work of mowing. So what I saw is a chap who had put blood, sweat and tears into something that was incredibly important for him to win this competition. I was quite devastated then, suddenly to realize after all of that effort, that a cricket game got in the way of all your hard work. And I felt actually quite sorry for you. You went on to speak about this guy called Mr. Nasty, and suddenly I also didn't like Mr. Nasty, and I thought Mr. Nasty was a terrible person. Again, you tried to compete and almost won, and you didn't, so my heart sank a little bit more for you. And I was thinking, blood, sweat and tears, and this guy is simply not getting to win what is a dearly, dearly important competition. And the image of you in the newspaper came up again. So the storytelling in your speech was fantastic. I was in it, I was building images of what you were doing. I was so there, I wanted you to win, and basically everything else for me was becoming unimportant because at some stage Dave was going to win. But in your closing, it's when it really all came home for me. It was a twist that I was not expecting, and when you finally won the spade, and I was so, so proud of you, you had this moment where it kind of became quite silent for me, and you sat there reflecting on the fact that there was something missing, and your kids weren't there, and all those hours of blood, sweat and tears that I was so for you. I think you were doing the right thing because you had to win. I suddenly felt guilty for having those thoughts earlier in your speech. And I suddenly realized that spending time with family and friends is far more important. And it was a twist that I seriously wasn't expecting. And I had to personally reflect on myself and how unfocused I was. Because in the beginning of your speech, I should have been thinking, Dave, go out there and play cricket with your guys, with your family. So it was a fantastic speech. Remember your loved ones and spend your time carefully. And I personally remember that myself. Thank you, Madam Contest Chair.
Thank you, Tanya. I'm going to allow a minute for the judges of silence, please. Time's up, thank you. I'd like to call up our next evaluator, Harold Robinson, to deliver his evaluation and his speech. Please welcome Harold Robinson.
Competition Chair, ladies and gentlemen,
really wonderful speech. I think that almost matches the one that you told us about the kids in the class. It was really good. The flow, the organization, you know, sometimes we forget the basics of a speech, but your organization was really good, where you had your introduction and you tied it up at the end. So introduction, body, conclusion, that basic was really good. I love the humor. I've told him 1,000 times, I'm not exaggerating. And Cedric Johnson with his fat, podgy hands on the spade, I thought was excellent. And Gladys Baxter throwing bottles into your garden to win the competition. I'm sure it did happen, but it was funny anyway. And a great message. Don't have too many silver spades. So a really well done speech. And it's very difficult to give you improvements. I've only got two that I can think of. The one was some of the body language might have been too elaborate, like mowing the lawn and so forth. And that's a really minor criticism. And the other improvements I thought you might be able to tell us was, what did your children think while all this was going on? I thought that might have made your message a bit more powerful if you'd done that. And in the new format of evaluation in Toastmasters, they talk about what challenge is there for you. And I could think of one challenge is, you gave us a very good message about, you know, the silver spades, but how would we avoid falling into that trap? So maybe you can think about a way of telling us that. I don't know how you do it in that speech, but that's the challenge. Just to conclude, I just loved your vocal variety, from right for the different voices for the kids, different voices for your wife, the voice for Mr. Green of the Garden Committee. I can't do it as well as you did. It came out very well. So very well done, and thanks very much for that, Dave.
Thanks, Alex.
No problem.
Thank you, Harold. We allow a minute of silence for the judges. Time's up, thank you. I'm going to call our last contestant in the evaluation contest, Johan Kelly, to present his evaluation on Dave's speech. Please welcome Johan Kelly.
Sorry for the delay. I apologize. Right. Thanks. Well, David, once again, this was one of your brilliant speeches. I think I've heard about 3 or 4 of them now, and they are very powerful, very meaningful. And this one, I enjoyed your humor as well. The message that I enjoyed here was, where have I gone? The really good message was the importance of spending more time with your children than worrying about the garden. And I think that's important because the children are, before you know it, they've grown up and they've gone. And you could have had a lot more fun with them by getting involved in the cricket match yourself. The other important thing was the speaker gave the impression of allowing jealousy to rule his life, being jealous about the other contestants winning the spade the whole time. And when you eventually got the award, it was a bit late because everyone had gone. And I think those are the very, very powerful messages that I got. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Thank you, Johan. We're going to allow 2 minutes of silence for the judges to just complete their ballots. Thank you. Time is up, thank you. We're going to be moving straight into our table topic contest. For the judges, the speaking order will be as follows. First up is Harold Robinson. Second, Tambu Khomu. Third, Jerome Sullivan. And finally, Johan Kelly. Will all the table topics contestants please leave the room until the preceding speaker has completed his or her response to the topic. You will be called into the room by the Sergeant at Arms. He will escort you out. Thank you. Never so nervous and big table topics. Okay. Our first table topics contestants. contestant is Harold Robinson. Please welcome Harold to the front with his topic, The Biggest Lie I Once Believed Was True. The biggest lie I once believed was true. Harold Robinson.
Madam Contest Chair, ladies and gentlemen, this is probably something that one could think about in those dark hours that we have these days with this thing called load shedding that is so common. And I must say, in all the darkness that I've had so far, that is something I haven't really thought about. But I think that we are being told one of the biggest lies you've ever heard by our Electricity Commission right now. So it's actually, in a way, quite a relevant topic for us all. Because as you lie there in the darkness and listen to the excuses, you've got to wonder about this lie. Here they're telling us that 2 power lines all the way from Mozambique that carries 2 gigawatts is the cause of a blackout. But in fact, we've got 36 of these available to us, and we're only using 22, so where does this come from? But in a way, it is true, because they've ruined it so badly that they are so reliant on those 2 that it has become a truth in its own way. But I think as we go forward from now on, and we have more hours of darkness, which has been promised to us, and I don't think that's a lie, I'm going to think about more big lies that have come true in the future, because right now I can't think of any.
Thank you, Harold. And now a minute of silence for the judges, please. Time's up, thank you. Please welcome to the front our second contestant, Thabo Kgomo, with her topic, The Biggest Lie I Once Believed Was True. The biggest lie I once believed was true, Thabo Kgomo.
I would love to tell you that the biggest lie I once believed was true was somebody else's fault. Isn't it actually true that we are our own worst enemy? Yes, sure, there may have been things that I heard from other people. It may have been something that someone said to me. What I've come to learn is the onus is on me to accept that label or to reject it. And I chose to accept it. And further still, I chose to blame the other person for me accepting it. I chose to believe that I was inadequate. I chose to believe that I was not enough. And further, I chose to believe that I had the right to think that because somebody else had said it. The biggest lie I ever told myself was I could be molded by what other people thought of me. The biggest lie I ever told myself cost me 40 years of my life, living it the way that other people might have wanted me to live it. That biggest lie I ever told myself, I find, although I have realized it's a lie, it's become a habit. But it means every single morning I have to counter that lie with a truth. Sometimes every hour of the day. But in order for me to stop telling myself a lie, I need to speak truth into my life. Thank you.
Thank you, Tambu. Another minute of silence for the judges, please. Time is up, thank you. Please welcome to the front our third contestant, Jerome Sullivan, with his title, The Biggest Lie I Once Believed Was True. The Biggest Lie I Once Believed Was True, Jerome Sullivan.
The biggest lie I once believed was true. There are so many, I don't know which one to choose first. I believe it would have been to do with love, one's impression of love and what love should be. You know, we sort of like, almost like we live a life of fantasy that is led by the influence of one or other person in our life. We sort of adapt and map our lives out in accordance with this belief or misbelief. So, in many ways, love is loving yourself first, loving from abundance, whereas the lie that I believed was to just give, to sacrifice oneself, to put yourself on the line, to absolutely believe that every person lives with integrity, which is not always true, and which is not the case. At the end of the day, everyone serves their own need, or out of their own season that they are experiencing or that they are going through in life. So we all go through different stages, different experiences, sometimes adversity as we are today. And how we respond to that is a reflection of who we are, but also it's projected into the lives of other people. And I feel that when you love, you've got to love yourself first and realize that when I'm being loved in return, am I being loved from a position of abundance? Does that person, him or her, love him or herself as I love myself? And that is the new truth that I've come to know, is that by loving myself first and then giving that love out to others freely, joyfully, with peace, with hope, with faith and trust, is a life worth living, is a life of purpose, it's a life of joy, and that's the new truth that I've come to know. Thank you.
Silence with the judges, please. we welcome our last contestant, Johan Kelly, with his...
Yes, it's me again.
Please welcome Johan with his speech titled, "The Biggest Lie I Once Believed Was True."
Oh,
The
my.
biggest lie I once believed was true. Johan Kelly, once
Oh,
again.
Well, the biggest lie that I once believed was true was when I was told I was getting 1 pip in the army. I hadn't qualified for 1 pip, but they told me that I was going to become a second lieutenant. In those days, it was an assistant field cornet. Wow! But in actual fact, I'd only qualified as a corporal. I don't know who came up with that lie. And I was stupid enough to believe it, that I was going to be an officer. Wow, it was unbelievable. And it didn't work out. So you've got to be careful what you believe. That was a horrible lie to tell everyone.
Thank you, Johan. We're going to allow 2 minutes of silence for the judges, please. Our contests to a close. I now have the privilege to finally introduce our speakers to you. So if I can ask all of the speech contestants to join me in the front, please. Let's meet them. Mandy Murray. Mandy is a member of our club, and one of Mandy's accomplishments or her awards she noted down as her 2 beautiful daughters. So Mandy, as I award you with your participation certificate, I want you to tell us which of you, or do you ever feel like you get, someone is getting back to you through your daughters? Which one of the two are most like you?
Okay, take it off YouTube. My firstborn, who's now 11, is easy, always has been, model child. If you had her, you would have 20 of them. My youngest, who's 9, is a challenge. She's very challenging. She does things differently. She doesn't listen when I speak lots of times, and I'm not exaggerating. So yes, I do feel that my youngest is here to give me the grey hairs I gave my parents. Thank you, Zoe.
Johan Kelly. Johan has the privilege to be retired already, and he was, some of his accomplishments, he has a private pilot license, and his hobbies, he enjoys model aircrafts and chess.
Chess.
Dave.
What is the youngest contestant that ever beat you at chess?
Oh, my grandson.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I made a big mistake. I taught him how to play the game. And now he's teaching me.
Well, they say, poor is the student who never surpasses
I
the
know.
master. Thank you for participating.
Thank you.
Harold Robinson is also a member of our club, I think. See, I learned. Harold, I did not know that you have a hobby of cooking. So please tell us, what is your favorite dish? And what was the worst one, your biggest flop?
I think it's easier to tell you which is the best one. I'm actually very amateur, but I like to dabble with food, and one of my hobbies at the moment is fermenting food. And my wife doesn't know the difference between fraught and fermented. But anyway.
Tambu is also a member of our club, and her interests are reading, watching comedy, and going out with a 9-year-old daughter. What is your favorite comedy show or movie, and why?
My favorite comedy show, hands down, The Big Bang Theory. It's not at all because I relate to the nerds. I do love Sheldon's sense of humor and his total social awkwardness, and as he learns, I learn.
Tanya Langbein.
Yes.
Tanya is also a member of our club, and I'm going to ask you to tell us about your favorite quote.
My favorite quote is, be proud, you took a chance to challenge yourself. And I think it was either in one of the initial Toastmaster manuals, or at the time I was getting ready to join Toastmasters. And for me, it was terrifying coming to the first meeting, and I was saying that quote to myself over and over again. It doesn't actually matter what happens, just be proud because you challenge yourself, and I dared to walk through that door. So, that's my favorite quote.
Adrian Hines. Adrian is also part of our club, member of Brights Breakfast Toastmasters, and interest in hobbies is reading. So Adrian, what is the best book that you've read recently?
Stephen Hawking's books. And, you know, because I'm actually a physicist by training, and I try to learn all about quantum mechanics, but I never really understand things that when I read it, and I read it, and I read it, and I read it. But it's very, it arouses my curiosity, but I still don't understand it.
Thank you for participating. Jerome Sullivan. Jerome is also a member of our club. He has a favorite quote saying, just do it, and he loves the outdoors, reading, and computers. So tell me, Jerome, what is your favorite outdoors activity?
Walking around Emmerich Dam, either reading or running through there, with botanical gardens, playing with other people's dogs.
Thank goodness you said John. Last but not least, Permit with you there. Permit loves sports. Permit, what is your favorite sport?
Soccer.
Sundowns.
Soccer.
Hands down.
I'm not playing anymore, but I can say that I'm a qualified development coach, which I can develop kids from age of 5 up to age of 17. And I got a level 1 reference certificate. And I got concept 4, which is an UK or FA certificate, which I did when I came back from England.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Group pic.
Are you going to put us in?
Arvid, certificate.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Lovely. Another one. Thank you.
Thank you very much for participating. Thank you to all our participants. We're going to just recess for 5 minutes, take a 5-minute break where I will be stepping out of the room just for the Chief Judge's report. Thank you.
Hey, skipping out of the room.
That's a good story.
Did you get my laptop?
Three,
And then the tabletop is 3 sessions. And
one is I think where you get feedback, then you do and I think there's something else to do as well. What level are you But then I'm trying to look at I have to find people that
I'd say fantastic humour, light, but
I'll run maybe this session, page to 10, page to this session, 10 to 4.
what's the M?
Yeah, so it's all online, and we'll just learn where we are 5 levels, no matter which farm it is. 5 levels is just wanting to see your level that you have to do. And as you complete online, it's launched the next level. And now you'll be the
But then you go on to Facebook, go to events and just type in education. It'll come up on the link.
What's that?
And 26, 7,
I wanted
6 months, 27 months.
That's it, and my dad's
She's a lady from
It's like, so 25, 26.
So you're not allowed in? Okay, you're like
I'm not sure what But you know what I mean?
I think it has been your
That's why you probably have to do something.
Now you want to do
Yeah, I know.
Electoral storms that we had, yeah. I was born in Government, but we stayed in Saturday, played rugby and card games and Pluto and because we didn't as we grew up, we couldn't actually do a lot of things. And my late son did and as we got older, we had to start with the group Can I have your attention? Thank you. We are back with the results. Yay! I'll be awarding first the placings and the results for the impromptu contest. With the impromptu contest, there has been one time disqualification. And then in third place for our impromptu contest, please welcome to the front Harold Robinson.
One moment,
Let me
please.
just do the lecture on this side. Yeah. Do you want to sit there? Yeah.
Focus on the video. Out of you move there.
Just watch me, I think it'd be here.
Are you competing with me now, do you know? Is that what you're doing?
Hey, yes, do this side. Do the closer one.
Yeah, you go.
This one first.
Cool.
Thank you.
Second place in our impromptu speech contest, please welcome to the front, Jerome Sullivan. And the winner in first place of the impromptu contest, please welcome to the front, Tango Combs.
Well done.
For the evaluation contest, there was no time disqualifications. Our third place winner for evaluations, please welcome to the front, Tanya Lambai. Second place in the evaluation contest, please welcome Harold Robinson. First place, the winner of the evaluation contest, please congratulate Tambu Khulu. In the international contest, there has been no time disqualifications, but the vote of the tie-breaking judge had to be used. The international contest in the third place, please welcome to the front, Johan Kelly.
Thank you, Madam Contest.
In second place, the international speech contest. Please welcome to the front, Permit McNuri. And the winner of our international speech contest, please welcome to the front, with loud applause, Mandy Murray.
That's amazing.
This wraps up my job for the day. I would just like to thank all the role players involved, from judges to tally counters to timers to sergeant at arms, and each and every single person who made this day possible. Thank you for the people from other clubs who came to support, who came to help to make the competition possible for us. And then over and above all, thank you for the speakers and the participants. Without you, we would not have the contest today. So a very big thank you to Lynn, especially for all your help with arranging and organising that. I know there's a lot that always goes on behind the curtains that people don't notice and don't see. Thank you very much. You've been a great help to me in organising the contest as well. So to everybody involved, judges, straight through, please give yourself a round of applause and just saying thank you very much. I hand back then to our club president, Harold Robinson.
Thank you, Zoe. First time that she's chaired the competition. I think she's done very well. Special mention, and I would like him just to come up here quickly, is our Chief Judge, Dimitri. Would you mind just showing people who you are?
Man.
Always help out. Huh? Very nice to have you again. And we have a little gift for you. So thank you for your time, for your help. Oh, sorry.
Somebody had to.
So this evidence you got the gift.
Thanks, Dimitri.
I can't believe it. Obviously, you've got to sit on that side of the room if you're a contestant. It's quite, the prizes are quite heavily tilted this way. So obviously, I was sitting in the wrong spot. Otherwise, well done to our contestants. Very well done. It's a lot of work to get to this, and just to get your head around the contest. So very well done. I think the standard was excellent. So thank you very much. And to all the role players, just to extend on what Joey said, thank you very much and for coming to support our club. And even our area director.
Yes.
Thank you. Well done. My last thing is I just want to give Zoe her little present. Well done. Yes. Once again, thanks. Is there anything else I need to say or do? Yes, Mr. Area Director, Mr. Boss.
Firstly, I would like to thank all the participants for taking your time and presenting those speeches. And secondly, the area contest for all the winners will be on the 30th of April. It's happening at a 4th dimension and it's starting at 6 o'clock. So start preparing on the 30th of April. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now the business today. Thank you ladies for these beautiful chocolates. I told them, no matter what goes wrong, just give everyone a nice chocolate and they'll remember it as a good meeting. This was a fantastic meeting. Thank you very much. I hereby call the meeting closed.
First place.
Yeah.
I've noticed. Were they
So we went on to the next